All right, everyone, Dev with Crime Hive. And I've got a special guest here with us here that we're going to interview. This is Laura Spaulding. And really excited to have her on. She's a very successful business owner. She works in the crime scene cleanup space. Is that right?
Yes, sir, it is.
Well, thanks for being a part of this here. And just for people who may not know who you are or what you're all about, what exactly do you do with Spaulding Decon? What's it all about?
Yeah, so Spaulding Decon is a crime scene cleanup company. We have about 45 locations across the country at this time.
Mhm.
And, we specialize in not only crime scenes, but unattended deaths, suicides, accidents, hoarders, and, just some unsightly cleanups that most people wouldn't want to get into.
Mhm. So it's not just your typical crime scene. It could be an accident, could be a
Mhm.
suicide, things like that. That
Yeah, exactly.
something traumatic. So is this something you've been doing for quite some time then?
Yeah, I started the company back in 2005. So,
Hmm.
15 years now, but we've
Hmm.
only been franchising since 2016.
Hmm.
So, I wanted to bring the concept to more than just, the Florida area, the Central Florida area. And
Hmm.
the best way to do that was to franchise and teach others that kind of had the same outlook, not only on life, but, that wanted to help their community and also make a great living doing it.
Very good. Okay, so it's open to other people. You've obviously been successful where you're at, and now you're giving other people the opportunity, which we can talk more about that too. If people are curious, I'm sure they'll want to know how they can reach out to you about that. But how did you really get started with this? What really started this idea or this business?
So right out of college, I went into law enforcement and
Hmm.
I had a lot of fun, right off the bat. It was very exciting. I was, 23 years old and, I was working in Kansas City, which is, a very high crime area. And it was exciting. I learned a lot. After 18 months on patrol, I got into undercover narcotics and vice,
Hmm.
and that really elevated things for me. So I had to take on different personas, and you really see things in that community and any community really that will change your life. It
Hmm.
will. So I was probably pretty sheltered, just a typical middle class person, and living that undercover life was eye opening for me. So, but it also probably took many years off of my life. So I started thinking, kid, is this really, what I want to do forever? I loved what I did, but I was living paycheck to paycheck. By the time I was 31, I was 7 years in law enforcement and I was only making $42,000 a year. I still had a roommate. I'm like, this
Wow.
just, yeah, I can't do that. So I went back to school at night and got my MBA. And
Mhm.
that really opened up a lot of doors for me to think outside the box. I had really no transferable skills to do anything in the business world,
Mhm.
but so I thought I want to start my own business, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I wrote down my criteria, and it was high margin, recession proof, and a higher barrier of entry because I didn't want anything like janitorial or junk removal or moving because anybody can really get into that. So
Mhm.
I was kind of looking and I just couldn't find anything. And then one night I was working in law enforcement and I was working a homicide, and the lady asked me, "When are you guys coming back to clean?"
Hmm.
And I was like, in 7 years, I hadn't been asked that question. And I thought, no, we don't do the cleanup. They thought that we did it. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy because I don't know who does it. So
Yes.
I asked the CSI people, and they said, we don't know. It's the homeowner's responsibility. So then I asked homicide, and they're like, we don't know. So, this was back 15 years ago.
Mhm.
So I started doing some research, and I found there was probably less than 15 companies in the entire United States at that time that were doing it.
Hmm.
So I found a training school in Dallas, Texas, and I used my only little bit of savings and my only week of vacation. And I went out there and I got trained and certified, and I opened up shop thinking at that time that it was going to be a side gig.
Yeah.
And that side gig turned out to make more money than my permanent gig. And I had to make a quick decision, and it was, it was an easy one for me. So I
Mhm.
quit.
That's that's really interesting. You've had an interesting career too. I mean, being in law enforcement, not just patrol, and I come from a background as well in law enforcement. I did that
Oh,
for
right on.
for some time too, close to about 8 years as well.
Nice.
And so, but you went, into Vice, which I think is really extraordinary, really interesting, because you got to
Yeah.
see really the undercover world, really get, I mean, you're with the detectives, you're seeing crime at a whole different level,
Yeah.
kind of changed your perception, I'd imagine, a little bit. And then, but you realize kind of similarly to me, you got kind of burnt out. Maybe you realize, this isn't something I want to do, my health, perhaps my,
Yeah.
this isn't what I want to do forever. And then you transitioned into being a business owner and found something that could really help people, something that's
Yeah.
an important service. And so, I got to ask you, what was that transition like, going from law enforcement into crime scene cleanup? Like, what did that really look like for you when you went through that?
Well, it created an opportunity for me that was a bit terrifying, but it was
Mhm.
also, I had to take a leap of faith on myself. So I never really liked living in the Midwest. It just happened to be the first place that hired me out of college. So
Mhm.
the only reason that I was there was for the job.
Mhm.
So I literally rented out my house, packed up
Yeah.
my bags, and said, you know what, I'm going to move to Florida,
Mhm.
and I'm going to at least like where I live, whether
Absolutely.
my business works or doesn't work. And so I just packed up in everything, and I moved and started my business fresh here. And that's where
Mhm.
I've been since 2006.
Wow, very good. So you've been doing this for some time, and so doing this, you've obviously dealt with, and we'll talk a little bit more about specific things that you've dealt with. But what would you say is really the most rewarding aspect of what you're currently doing with this current business? What do you like most about it?
I absolutely love going to work every day, 15
Mhm.
years later. And
Mhm.
whether, I made, $2,000 a month or $50,000 a month, I would still love what I do because I have a direct impact on changing people's lives. So
Mhm.
I can take them from, a depressed state for whatever happened, and I can literally turn their environment around and
Mhm.
help them in every aspect. And that to me is the most gratifying thing about my business.
Absolutely. I mean, and it is something that people obviously thank you for. I mean, it's not an easy thing, and I know you've got TikTok videos out there and you're on YouTube. People love what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
At the same time, people are like, wow, I don't know if I could do that. That's, but it's really interesting. So it kind of asks the question too, like a lot of people are wondering, what is the most common request for the services that you offer? What do you think you get called about the most out there?
Well, as we have several verticals in our business, but I would
Hmm.
say predominantly it's biohazard, and
Hmm.
it's anything biohazard related. So, and
Hmm.
it'll ebb and flow a little bit, but unattended deaths and suicides are
Hmm.
probably the most of what we do.
Okay, so there are a lot of unattended deaths and suicides there. What and you've got employees. You've trained some people. What does it take to do this kind of work? What kind of training is involved with it?
In terms of employees, we have very specific requirements, and
Hmm.
one is a degree of empathy.
Hmm.
Um, and number two is physical fitness. This job requires extreme physical fitness. You're wearing a respirator, a Tyvek suit, and you're working in very extreme environments,
Hmm.
whether extreme hot or extreme cold, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
And the third thing is a good attitude. That's something I cannot train. You either have a great attitude or you don't. Physical fitness, you're going to have it or you're not. Empathy, again, these are things you really can't train on. So
Hmm.
those are three requirements that we have for our business, and we have found that this is the reason that we're most successful on social media is because the public resonates with our employees.
Yeah. Absolutely. You've got, and you could tell that they're really caring. They really want to help the people that they're dealing with. And are there other specific types of training that someone has to go through to actually do this specifically? Are there like certain certifications or things
Yeah,
of that
there's
nature?
quite a bit. So for a franchise owner, they spend 2 weeks with us in corporate office,
Mm-hmm.
and then we spend franchise consultant goes to them for visits,
Uh-huh.
to get them started up. But we have everything from bloodborne pathogen training to
Mm-hmm.
specific crime scene cleanup, meth lab cleanup. We do a whole day of hoarding training on the psychology of it, and then the
Yeah.
process and system that we have set up to make them successful.
Very
So it is quite lengthy, but we have so many different verticals in the business that it's instrumental that we take the time to teach this stuff.
Absolutely. So it's you've got a specific training system in place as well. And then, I know you guys offer a lot of different services too. Hoarding, being it
Yeah,
seems like that's is that something that you guys come across quite a bit, is hoarding
absolutely. Yeah,
homes?
we probably do. I mean, just in our corporate office, we probably do 2 to 3 a week.
Hmm.
So, 5% of the population suffers from hoarding. So there's quite a bit of people out there that are suffering from this. And, we just finished this past weekend. We do a holiday hoarding giveaway where
Mm-hmm.
we give away all of the labor and resources to one winner every
Hmm.
year right before Christmas. And, we just finished up here this lady this last weekend, and she just was, our perfect candidate. She couldn't help herself. So this
Yeah.
is the type of person we want to help. And we were able to, get all the trash out of there and hopefully help her with that depression. So to avoid, recidivism, we're in there cleaning. We're donating some furniture items, new beds and things that
Hmm.
she can kind of start over. Because when your environment is happy, your attitude changes. When your environment is terrible and hoarded and trash and everything, it makes you depressed, of course, because your outside reflects how you feel on the inside. So we want to change that environment so it'll change how she feels about her home.
That's really neat what you guys are doing, especially before Christmas. And I'd like to even put that info, below the video. If people can reach out on that or be a part of that, I'm sure that could really help somebody. So I think that's great what you guys are
Yeah,
doing.
it's our favorite time of the year to do that.
Yes, no, absolutely. And you guys are very giving. I mean, I could see from a lot of the social media posts and all that. For example, with the franchise opportunity, it sounds like you guys have helped veterans. Is that
Yeah,
right? With
yeah.
if they wanted to start, I think you had helped with the tuition cost or something of that nature. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so what we do is we pick one veteran every year, and we donate $45,000 to their territory so they can own the territory. And then we
Hmm.
train them, and they start their franchise. So this year's winner was in the Acadiana, Louisiana area, and they
Hmm.
just picked up training. So, we love veterans. We find that they fit amazing in our business
Yeah.
because veterans are already programmed very well to follow a system. So when
Hmm.
they come into our system, they get off the ground running, and they do very, very well with us.
Very good. Yeah, I'd love to put that information below too, if there's any veterans watching this as well. And then, and I want to talk a little bit about more of what happens when you guys are cleaning up these scenes. A lot of people, again, very curious about this kind of stuff. It's obviously no easy task. A lot of cleaning and biohazard material being cleaned up. What do you guys find is most common, or when you're cleaning up a crime scene? Is it something you can clean up and basically make new, almost as if it's new again? Or do you find that you're replacing items quite a bit? You've got like maybe the blood soaked carpet. Is it like you're replacing these items for them, or are you actually, how does that typically work?
So I think a couple of the biggest surprises for our
Mhm.
clients is most of them think, oh my God, we're never going to get the smell out.
Yeah.
Number one, and we always can get the smell out. Number two, most of the clients don't realize how much construction and demolition is involved
Mhm.
because blood, like water, will find the path of least resistance. And so if the house isn't perfectly level, it will travel under baseboards and drywall and seal plates. So there's quite a bit of demolition there. But,
Okay.
but our company is unique in that whatever we have to remove and demolish, we come back and put it all back together. So
Hmm.
we will make the house in pre-incident condition.
Wow. No, that's great. And that's important for people to know too. So, and people wonder, okay, maybe I need this service. How do I pay for it? How does that work? How would you respond to
That's a
that?
really good question. So most biohazard cases are covered by homeowners insurance, and a lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize that either. They think, and most people have no idea how much it costs. So
Mhm.
we help you through that process of filing that insurance claim, and
Mhm.
it's covered under the same category as a flood or a fire. It's a disaster.
Wow.
So we can get in there in a timely manner and mitigate further damage to the house.
Okay, so it's something that you can work with the insurance companies with, so they can maybe have more peace of mind. They don't have to worry about, any additional trauma per se. I mean, they don't have
Right.
to worry about these extra issues when they're dealing with that.
Correct.
That's great. Okay, so uh, another question here with the service that you guys offer, and I'm curious about this. Like there, and there's a story, and I wish I could remember this guy's full name. I think his last name was Fish, and I think his torso was found in his own fish tank one time,
Oh,
and or at his house, and police never did solve this crime. And he had some shady people living in the home, kind of coming and going. I think they were just using his house. A lot of crime activity going in and out, and neighbors would call the police and wonder, what's going on. And lo and behold, they actually see a crime scene cleanup company come to the home, and the neighbors are like, what is going on? And I think it actually spooked the crime scene cleanup people so much that they didn't do it. They were like, this is shady, this is weird, we're not going to we're not going to do
wow.
this. And so I was wondering, and I'm sure other people might be wondering too, have you ever come across some shady situations like that, or where people maybe trying to call you, perhaps wanting you to get this cleaned up, and you just had this maybe weird feeling or vibe about it? Or how would you?
Well, yes and no. So we first of all, we've never said no to any cleanup ever.
Okay. Okay.
Second of all, there's ways to validate whether a particular situation is legit or not. So,
Mm-hmm.
if we get calls that seem a bit shady, it's perfectly normal to, call the police department and say, "Hey, we've been called over there. I just want to confirm you're done with the crime scene." And then, if they respond, "What crime scene?" then obviously there's an issue, but that's never happened to us. So, it's very easy to validate this stuff. It's not like, we're getting calls from the mob saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, come pick up some body parts that we put in the ocean or something." It doesn't work that way.
Right. No, that makes sense. It's good for
Yeah.
clarification on that. And so being at these crime scenes, what would you say is the most disturbing thing you've come across at one of these crime scenes? Not necessarily in law enforcement, but being there in that type of scene.
I think every employee would probably answer this differently.
Mhm.
But for me personally, the suicides are hard, and
Mhm.
anything with animals is hard for me. Uh,
Absolutely.
I'm sure if you've watched our social media, we're a huge animal type company.
Yeah.
We have animals at our office. Employees are allowed to bring their animals, so it's very
Mhm.
open. So those things bother me when animals have to either starve to death because the owner has passed, or the animal has to eat the owner.
Uh,
So that's happened quite a bit. But I would
yeah.
think suicides bother me personally the most because when I'm walking into these houses and we're evaluating the scene, you can feel the pain in these homes.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
The
yeah,
energy.
it's the energy, and whether you believe in that stuff or not, it's heavy. It's very heavy, and it's
Yeah.
difficult to get through those jobs because it's intense emotionally more than it is physically.
Hmm. Absolutely, and I think that's important too for someone to have the right mindset going into those. And I'm sure you guys offer training on that as well, going into these scenes. And it can be emotionally, you know, uh, it can be very emotional. You got to really be in the right mind frame with that. And so, uh, with these scenes, have you ever come across a scene where you found something maybe that was evidentiary value,
Mhm.
and maybe detectives, investigators, they've already left the scene, you guys have come in and cleaned it up? Have you come across a situation like that?
Yeah, we have, and mistakes happen.
Hmm.
These CSI people are human,
Hmm.
and that's normal. We found there was a murder in a hotel,
Hmm.
and we found the knife hidden between the mattress and the box spring. So, that's something we're already gloved up. We just put it in a bag for them and set it aside and call them and tell them to come grab it. So,
Uh-huh.
it's not something that obviously we make a big deal about. It doesn't happen very often at all.
Hmm.
But, we are in these homes and we're working with literally a fine tooth comb,
Yep.
very detailed work. It's not uncommon for us to be using needle nose pliers to pull bullets out of drywall. So,
Wow.
we're in there for quite a bit of time, and we literally want to make sure we get every speck of blood out of there.
You guys are knee deep in that,
Yeah.
and just making sure everything's
Mhm.
completely removed. And it sounds like you guys have some systems in place too to make sure that everything is removed. I saw you. I think you were doing a training just the other day on YouTube where you were showing. I think was it mold that you were detecting from that, or
That was a bacteria test.
bacteria test?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you guys have some really cool things in place.
Yeah.
And I noticed you guys don't just deal with these types of services with crime scene cleanup and biohazard and hoarding and all that sort of stuff. You also, uh, there's a real estate investing portion of this. How does that, do you find a lot of people tend to move out of the home right after something like this happens?
Yeah, we do for one of two reasons. So the most common incident is, maybe grandma died in Florida, for example, but the
Hmm.
family might live in Michigan. They
Hmm.
don't want the house. Their intent is to sell it anyway. So what we do is we offer a cash offer to buy the house in as is condition. So that means
Okay.
they don't have to pay us to clean it up. They don't have to do anything. They simply walk away with cash. There's a
Mhm.
ton of benefit for them in that. They don't have to hire a realtor. They don't have to make trips to Florida. They don't have to do anything. It's no cost out of pocket for them, which is
Yeah.
advantageous. Then the other situation is, we've had a lot of murder suicides, and the next of kin just can't bear the thought of being in that house. And honestly, I don't blame them. I couldn't do it either. So we take that off their hands too. And
Uh-huh.
then, we'll either rehab it and then, sell it to the consumer, or we'll just keep it as a rental or, depending on what we want to do. But
Yeah.
that's one of the verticals that makes us unique in our industry because we're
Mhm.
the only ones in the country that do this.
I found that really interesting, and I think that's a really smart model. And you're really helping people on so many different levels, not just
Mhm.
emotionally, like we talked about. I mean, you're really helping them out, like to organize their life,
Yeah.
figure out how to have a fresh start, or move forward from that. And so I really appreciate you coming in and explaining exactly what you do. And how can we find more about you? How can we get in touch with you?
Well, we're all over social media. So if you like, watching crime scene cleaning stuff, we're on YouTube
Mhm.
under crime scene cleaning. We're on TikTok, crime scene cleaning, Instagram as well, crime scene cleaning,
Mhm.
and then, Facebook under Spaulding Decon. So we try to put everything, very educational. If you're interested in a franchise, it's just spaldingdecon.com/franchise.
Awesome. Okay, and I'll definitely put that in there. It looks like you guys have quite an opportunity with that, and I'm sure there's some people out there that would love to be a part of what you're doing. And so I'll put that information below the video. I appreciate you coming on this call and or on this video and just being a part of this interview here. And I'm sure our viewers will love it. And we'll chat with you soon. We'll see you soon then. Okay.
Thanks for having me, Des.
All right. Thanks, Laura.